1 year traveling outside of the United States. I've made several live streams in the past concerning what I would do if I could do anything I wanted, if I had all my time, if I had enough resources, more than enough resources in this case. What would I do? And the interesting thing is that God will test you with what you ask for. And it's imperative that one is prepared for if things do work out. And so I'm definitely grateful. This is a live Q&A. This is ask me anything if you have any questions about traveling the world. I've been to several countries. I'm at 10 currently, so I'm definitely grateful. Where did I start? So, yesterday, a year ago, November 5th, 2024 is when I left the United States. And I went to Colombia first. And I won't lie to you. I will not lie to you and say that, being a passport bro wasn't in, my plans as far as where I'm about to go down here and turn up and receive, my reward of sorts. And it wasn't that at all. It wasn't that at all. One thing I struggle with is doing everything that everyone else gets to do. God has never permitted me to behave in that manner. And I'm grateful because it has benefited me in more ways than not to be set apart, to be an outlier, to be different. And of course, if you're watching this video, you're most likely in that same boat where you've been afforded certain privileges. And of course, everything comes from God anyway. But because we focus on wisdom, because we prioritize making quality decisions, it's very difficult. It's almost impossible to make wise decisions consistently and not benefit. And so, yeah, we started off in Colombia, went to Cartagena, which I believe was the shortest distance from Florida where I was living at the time. And Cartagena was great. Party city, like loud. The girls, it's definitely a thing. Temptation will find you well before you even go looking for it. It comes to you. Walking the streets, mingling in the bars and the coffee shops. It comes to you. And so we were definitely grateful to have opportunity to resist temptation in that way. And of course, again, in full disclosure, I won't pretend like I didn't try, but it's just certain thing like God will have me read a random Reddit post, and I'll read a story, and I've mentioned this previously in previous live streams, where a gentleman he met a youngin in the streets and messed around and got caught up, with a disease he can't get rid of, and he paid money for it. And for some reason, it's kind of like when it's like seafood is a good example with me, where I see something, and once I see it in a certain way, I can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. When I was in, where was I? I believe I was in Medellin, Colombia, and I bought a pack of cigarettes because I'm quite fond of nicotine. Quality chemical if you use it properly. And on the box, they had a picture of a deformed newborn baby. For obvious reasons, it's meant to deter the consumer. But as I saw that, I got back to the hostel, and I threw the whole pack away. I couldn't get that image out of my head. And the same thing works for prostitution. No matter where you go in the world, especially in the lower income, the lower GDP, the more impoverished regions of the world, you can't unsee certain things. Same goes with poverty. Same goes with STDs or prostitutes or drug use, gambling. There's certain things you just can't unsee, and it's tough to try to consume something and participate with everyone else. Alcoholism, you see people getting robbed left and right. They keep going to bars. I'm like, why do you keep going there? It's as if they're waiting for you to go to the bar because they know that there's a certain type of process that takes place in the mind where our decision making seems to just drop off a cliff when you consume certain chemicals in certain ways and certain amounts. And so, yeah, Cartagena was great. Party city. I stayed there for about a month. I was living in a hostel previously known as Selena. It's now known as Viajero. I believe they were bought out. Yeah, still a great hostel. I believe it's still there. It still looks similar. Great rooftop, amazing restaurant on the roof. I lived there for a month, and that's where you kind of get the taste of a city when you live in the hostel. It's a great place to meet all the travelers and people from all over the world coming to hostels. It's a very social environment, and so you're almost forced, no matter what level of introversion you live at, you're forced to interact because people will come to you because you might be the first black person that they've ever met. In that environment. So it was definitely interesting, definitely loud, very much louder than if you hear now. There's a sound of a river behind me, a sound of a river, much to be preferred than salsa music at 4 a.m., salsa music at 3 a.m., salsa music at 6 a.m. They party because it's Tuesday. That there's no reason for them to party. They just party. It's cultural. And so that was definitely interesting. From Colombia, we went to Santa Marta, and again, following serendipity and just kind of meeting people in Cartagena, I met a young lady from Barranquilla, which is about 45 minutes or so, I believe, from Cartagena. And very smart, very intellectual. We talked about energy, talked about Bitcoin, we talked about nuclear energy. She's an engineer in college, very smart individual. And she recommended Santa Marta, and boy, was it a quality recommendation. I stayed in, well, I think before I went to Santa Marta, I went to Tarona Park, the beautiful hostel out there, right in the middle of the jungle. They had, mosquito nets over the beds, bunk bed situation, but beautiful environment, quality environment. They had hammocks overlooking the ocean, did yoga every morning, and really trying to just check the box. Really trying to check the box on like certain experiences. You see certain views and aesthetics on Instagram, and I was like, what if I did yoga at 7 a.m. overlooking the ocean, beautiful individuals surrounding me, everyone sipping on coffee, reefers in the air, quality experience. It's one of my fondest experiences of traveling in general. Was that singular hostel? Unfortunately, it was booked when I went to go book the whole entire month. I was there for I believe 3 or 4 days, maybe a week, and I was like, all right, let me stay here for the month. And I went to go book for the month, and it was completely booked. And of course, I'm a strong believer in rejection being quality redirection, especially when you follow wisdom and you believe in making quality decisions. Nothing really works against you. And so in that situation, I went to Santa Marta, and I stayed at Viajero Hostel. Stayed there for a month or two, maybe, definitely a month at least. And I met a ton of people there. Santa Marta is probably my third favorite city in Colombia. The first being Medellin. Second, definitely Santa Marta. Well, no. So my first favorite city is San Jose, Costa Rica, where I'm at now. But my second, Medellin, and then of course third is Santa Marta. Yeah, before I got to Medellin, so I was in Santa Marta for a couple months. I believe it was either 1 or 2 months. Again, this is over a year ago. Santa Marta, we went to the coffee region, Padea, about an hour flight from Santa Marta, and that's where I discovered my love of the mountains. So again, you'll hear me talk often about serendipity, like quality discoveries that you kind of just stumble upon, happy accidents, if you will. And Padea was my discovery of green mountains. Quality, the climate stays around anywhere from 50 to 70 degrees, and it just mingles in that area. And it's the second I stepped off the plane and you feel it, you've been searching for this your entire life. Again, formerly living in Florida, like it was ideally the best, you know, weather in America. Everybody wants to live in Florida. Everybody goes there to vacation, but the summer's just too much. And so I would always love the winters in Florida because it would just be mild. It's doable. It's 70 during the day, 60 at night, 50 at night. It's doable. And so the second I stepped off the plane in Pereira, I'm like, this weather is perfect. It's just fall weather year round. And it's due to the elevation. We're near Colombia is directly near or adjacent to the equator, but it's in the mountains. And so you're mixing elevation with the equator region. And so that combination is just so beautiful. And so, of course, from Padea, I stayed there for a couple of days, working out. I had a SmartFit membership. SmartFit is a quality membership. If you're ever traveling Central South America or the Caribbean, SmartFit is a commercial gym equivalent to a LA Fitness or whatever. It's LA Fitness Planet Fitness equivalent. And yes, worked at SmartFit in Padea, and then I went to Salento, which is even more so in the mountains. The elevation just increases even more so. And I met several people there, including that young lady I met in Cartagena. And just beautiful mornings, slow mornings, cigars, coffee, very small town. And so for a person like myself who deals with fear of missing out in certain ways, I didn't want to be in a large city all the time. And I kind of flipped. I've kind of flipped to where I enjoy large cities now just because of the amenities and the options. But Salento was almost romantic. As soon as you walk out of the door, again, it was another hostel, Viajero. As soon as you walk out of the hostel, you just see the mountains, green mountains. There's no snow. There's no foolishness. You're not worried about hurricanes. You're not worried about crazy weather. It's just mild. It's just 60, 70 degrees, and that's where I truly fell in love with just the mountain region. We call Colombia, what's it called? Eternal Spring, something to that effect, where it's the same weather year round. You're not worried about it does rain a lot, which I just happen to prefer. But yeah, so Salento was majestic in nature, and so I highly recommend it. A lot of tourism there. And so again, you still have the options of meeting a lot of different people from all around the world, especially those who speak English. You'll learn to miss English speakers the second you start living outside the country. You just miss the levels of conversations that you're capable of being that Spanish. You got to start from scratch when you're learning a new language, and so it's hard to connect with people when language is usually the main medium you use to do so. So yes, from Salento, where did we go? We went back to Perea, I think. Where did I leave? I think I went back to the States. No, I think I went to Guatemala from Colombia. Guatemala. And Guatemala is great, a little bit more expensive than Colombia. One thing you will notice immediately when you travel from the United States to Colombia is the purchasing power. The dollar is beautiful. I believe it's 4,000 to 1. It's still the equivalent, but the prices are lower in Colombian pesos. And so you'll definitely appreciate the ability to, your dollar just goes further. You know, the minis that you're able to purchase at a normal apartment is just way cheaper. Like everything from $8 a day hostel to a $1,500 high rise, you have the option, and the option is what gives you peace. Is because knowing, especially when you're on a fixed income more or less, you want the option to choose. And like this month, I want peace. I want a beautiful apartment versus I just want a place to sleep. Well, when you're traveling, when you're moving around a lot, you just really want a place to sleep, and hostels are great for that. So Guatemala was great. I went to Lake Atalan. I believe I started in where did I start? In Antigua. Antigua was great. Enjoyed Antigua. Again, cobblestones, loud. I ended up catching strep throat when I was in Guatemala at Lake Atalan. Lake Atalan's majestic, but you will see the levels of poverty. The levels of poverty, people bathing in the lake and washing clothes in the lake. And it's not exactly the worst thing in the world, but it's not exactly ideal in terms of choice. Like it's not what I would choose in my own situation. But no, it's great for perspective. Had a lot of amazing coffee. Took a trip. What was that place? I think I was in Colombia though. Anyway, Guatemala was great. And I might lose the order, but I went to Panama as well. Panama is like a mini Miami. A lot of Americans, a lot of, expats, if you will, people who have left their previous country to live in a different country. Panama is that. Didn't really enjoy it that much. The people act like Americans. And so Americans are not really known in some parts, the northeastern part of the U.S. They're not really known for their hospitality or their kindness or their softness, especially in comparison to Colombia. When you've spent that amount of time that I spent in Colombia, around 90 days or so, you get used to kindness and the people and the warmness. And the people want to meet you, and they want to talk to you, and they want to know where you're from. And the kindness. Again, the kindness, it's hard to unsee that. And then go back to Panama, and it's hit and miss. People are like, not really happy to see you. And then like, oh, is he a John here to participate in the prostitution market? I'm like, no, man. Like, no, I'm chilling. And of course, that may just be my experience as a black man or my anecdotal experience as Ray. But it was definitely unique. I definitely might go back, but I wasn't exactly. It's nowhere in comparison to what I've experienced in Costa Rica or Colombia. But Panama was interesting. Where else? I think I went back to Medellin, Colombia, and that's where I again just fell in love. If you ever go to Medellin, Lorales is my favorite neighborhood. It's not exactly the middle of everything. There's not a ton of clubs and bars and strip clubs and all that foolishness. But it's calm. It's peaceful. You can walk the streets and it's more or less clean. It's not as clean as Costa Rica. Costa Rica is spotless. Costa Rica is pristine, whereas Medellin there might be a lot more trash to behold in Medellin. But the weather is beautiful. The weather is perfect. Again, the eternal spring. It's autumn, spring, year round, and it rains almost every day. So if you're a balcony person like myself, if you're a coffee shop and muse and stare off in the distance type person, you'll love the environment. The cigar bars of Medellin. You'll find me in a cigar lounge, puffing on something, you understand, sipping on something strong, you understand. CJ in the chat, let's see what you got. Do you plan to settle down in an area or keep traveling and seeing what the world has to offer? I'm a slow traveler. I tend to, if so, in Costa Rica, for example, they give you like 180 days on average. So I've been here, what, 2, 3 months already, and I'll probably be here till February. I enjoy the entire length that they give me, mainly because I'm also saving money while I travel. Yeah, I enjoy getting to a place and kind of just blending in as best as I can into the environment. And so I don't enjoy like all right, 2 days here, 3 days here, 2 days here. It's too much. It's too much. And it adds up too quickly. That in terms of Ubers and the way I prefer to travel, I'm not hopping on a random bus to go off into the middle of nowhere. I'm an Uber person. I'm a flight person. I'm a little bougie. Mainly because you want quality. I'm not trying to hop on the back of a bike. As many cities as I've lived in and been in that have their main mode of transportation being motorcycles, I ain't touched one yet. For what? You might as well join the NFL and get CT. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So yeah, great question. So yeah, where was I? Medellin. Yeah, Medellin is where I really truly fell in love with just the mountain region, equator adjacent. And then from Medellin, went to Dominican, went back to Florida. And again, there's a lot of traveling in between Florida and going back to some place, go back to Florida, go somewhere else. Back to Florida is my main homestead, I guess, or I can't think of the proper term, but it's the main place I typically go back to in between countries. And so I go back, check my mail essentially, and experience the dollar and the cost of capital of the dollar. And it's just, it turns me off immediately. Just the one Uber from the airport to a temporary, like a one night stay in a Airbnb or a hotel, and that one Uber costs more than 5 Ubers in Colombia. I can't keep going back to that. It's too much. It's too much. And so went from Florida to Dominican Republic, stayed there for a month. And that was interesting. It was right, we call it the tail end or a little after effects of a hurricane or pre effects of a hurricane. And it wasn't bad at all, but of course, you're right in the middle of the Caribbean. Too hot during the day. It was just too much. Not as clean of a city as I would prefer. Too much trash. There are parts that are much cleaner, much nicer. There's an expat community there as well. So in those areas, it's a little more expensive, but it's also cleaner, a little more modern. There's a beautiful park in the middle of the city that I definitely enjoyed. Turn my audio books on and just walk. Beautiful park, well kept, well maintained. And so Dominican Republic wasn't all bad. Beautiful women. I had some great experiences there. Yeah, and then from Dominican Republic, went back to Florida for one night, and that brings us to where we currently are in Costa Rica. And so over the past year, all those countries in between, Florida and what have you, great experience. Costa Rica is my favorite place I've been to so far. I'm in San Jose, and the weather again is perfect. It's pretty much similar to Guatemala or Medellin, Colombia. It's near the equator, but it's elevated. It's in the mountains, and so if you look outside my window, my balcony, we're surrounded by volcanoes, which I didn't realize they were volcanoes. I just thought they were mountains. They're volcanoes, and so we'll definitely keep that in the back of our mind. I've had 2 earthquakes since I've been here. Last month I was staying on the 18th floor. I'm on the 5th floor now. But the 18th floor during an earthquake, I believe it was a 6.0, a 6.0 earthquake, and it was noticeable, more than noticeable. I went out on the balcony and I saw everyone else was on the balcony too. You just see kind of human nature, just did everybody else just experience what I just experienced? And you go out and see everybody else, with the same puzzled look on their face. So that was definitely interesting. But yeah, been in Costa Rica for a couple months now, and it's my favorite city I've ever been to. The cleanliness, it's the equivalent of going to a gated community in Florida, and you just walk the sidewalks, and it's just pristine. It's like someone swept it with a toothbrush. Costa Rica is that same thing. A little more expensive than Colombia, right on par with Panama, give or take, up there with the Dominican Republic. But the people are kind, people are beautiful. It's almost like a romantic vibe here. And the climate has that way of doing that to you, where you just kind of, you don't have to worry about it being too hot or too cold. It's just now we can worry about other things now. Now that the big things aren't really a pain in my buttocks. And so, yeah, Costa Rica is beautiful. Amazing coffee shops. I try to hit one every week or so. I'm going to school online now. I finally got that bug out of my system as far as overcoming mental blocks, and we'll get to those things when we talk about management and stewardship. But yeah, it's been an amazing year. But when I talked about in those previous live streams about, I need to slow down. Why am I talking so fast? When I mentioned, and it was a live stream where I was asking myself questions, just quality questions that make you think and that make you truly answer honestly of what would you do in this case, or what would make you happy today, or if you had your entire day to yourself, if you had enough money to not have to work and it was passive income, what would you do? And of course, I've been in that situation since 22 where I don't have to work. And I'm blessed and privileged to be in that position where now the problems that you once had of worrying about this or worry about, my boss or showing up to work late or traffic, all these things, those same problems that you once thought will be solved immediately by passive income and not having to work, those same problems now become different problems where you discover loneliness and depression. And it's not like those things were foreign to me, but it's that they take on a new form, a new level of sorts. And so, of course, via wisdom, we've been learning, and we're still learning. We're still overcoming certain things and trying to figure out how to manage new environments and new circumstances. And of course, it's a privilege to be in this position to have new problems to overcome and new problems. But we study wisdom, and we ask God for wisdom, not a God that will just give you wisdom. He gives you problems to solve so you can develop wisdom. So if you get a different problem one day, you have muscles and you have reps and you have repetitions and you have muscle memory to fall back on of the last time I was in a position similar to this on a different level or a different circumstance or different context. This is how I overcame that. And the wisdom stays with you and it accrues over time. And so we're definitely grateful. Definitely grateful. So yeah, that's 1 year traveling. I would be lying if I said I didn't ever think I would ever be in this position. I planned this. Not exactly how I got here. Slow down, Rick. Good Lord. Slow down. I just got back to the gym. The creatine is flowing. The caffeine is appropriate. Yeah, but we're grateful. But yeah, I prayed to be in this position. I prayed to be in this position. And so it's not exactly a surprise that I'm here. But of course, the problems that come with new positions and new levels and progress, it's hard to plan for those things. And so we are grateful to be in a position where now we're able to really fall back and really practice our wisdom. Practice.